mentioned. I'm glad to be joined here at the table by Michael Allen, of course, Beacon Global Strategies and a reliable voice of ours when it comes to national security issues. Michael, it's good to see you and welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Could we be in a world where there is no retaliation?
It won't be for long.
Yeah.
I think the Iranians have telegraphed that they feel like they have to do it. They were embarrassed by the fact that they had a very senior Hamas political leader killed in an Iranian government facility. So I think for their own sake, their own deterrence, their own toughness in the region, and the appearance that they need to give to their proxies, they have to do something. The question is, what do they do directly from their own territory versus what do their proxies do? I don't think it's either or. I think both will act in some way, shape, or form, but I know the Iranians want to do it differently than last time. Last time everything was intercepted. I think they actually want to feel like they landed a punch this time.
Well, as we think back to April, and it's been described to us as Iran having sent its slowest things first, basically giving Israel forewarning that the attack was coming. Do you think they won't do that this time around, that not just Israel, but the other allies who came to Israel's defense, including the U.S., won't have as much time to prepare a response?
I really do think that they will not, to the degree that they telegraphed last time, and that's still up for debate. I think they do less of it this time around, because I think they, at the end of the day, were probably losers in the equation. No people were killed, no major damage, certainly no damage to Israeli military facilities. So I think they want to be able to have a talking point. They want to claim a scalp. They want to say that we're tough and that we did something and that we're the regional hegemon. And so I think there'll be less telegraphing and more trying to actually land a punch.
You wonder to what extent that de-escalates things. You were a special assistant to the president in the Bush administration. Someone else has your old job now. What are they telling Joe Biden about the various scenarios to plan for here? Do you let Iran land a punch, knowing that that might be the end of the tit for tat? How do you keep guardrails on this thing without getting too involved?
So as you know, we have the head of Central Command is in the region coordinating with the Israelis. I think that we're going to do as much or more than we did last time.
More?
To try to prevent drones, missiles, whatever the case may be, from getting into Israel proper. I think that's a very appropriate role for the United States, and I'm certain that we've tried to knit up others like the Saudis and the UAE and the region to contribute as much as they possibly can. But what I think Biden's thinking about right now is what happened last night in Baghdad. Did they target directly our troops at the Air Force base there? And or will they go after directly other U.S. embassies or naval platforms or whatever the case may be in the region? I don't think they'll go for it, but we have to be ready for it because Hezbollah took a shot at us. Israel, of course, killed one of their leaders. And I think the way the Iranians view things is that we're complicit in whatever Israel does.
Well, and the U.S. has tried and true come to the defense of Israel, but has consistently decided not to go on offense in many ways, as especially you bring up the attack on the base in Iraq last night that we saw, and a number of U.S. personnel were injured. Do you expect the U.S. could actually be offensive in the region if things escalate further? So
we've all been trying to look at what Biden said previously about what his personal red lines are. Was it actually that an American get injured or that an American died? To me, that's dancing on the head of a pin. They took a shot at us. The United States ought to hit back against them in some proper way. I think we have to worry about our own deterrence in the region, so I might lean a little bit more hawkish than someone else. But, yeah, I think it is something that is on Biden's plate right now. They took a shot at our people. We want to prevent them from doing this. Remember, they were able to kill several, some months ago now at a different installation that we had in Syria, and we just don't want that to happen again.
We talk about all this from a distance here as we sit in Washington, but as you referenced, could be the same or more support that we saw last time. There were American fighter jets shooting down missiles with air-to-air missiles in the middle of that operation. How high could the risk get for American pilots and navigators in the middle of all of this?
Well, I think it depends on how many ballistic missiles and drones the Iranians try to go right now.
It's the equivalent of boots on the ground, though. We're just in the air.
It sort of sounds like it, doesn't it? I mean, we're over Israeli airspace, probably Saudi and UAE airspace at different times, trying to knock all of these out. I just don't think the Iranians are going to do it exactly like last time. Not that it was easy last time, but we were able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. They're going to make it harder this go around. I think the Israelis have to be prepared that some of this is going to go through, even if in the aggregate the United States has sent more squadrons and more other equipment and the like to the region.
So, of course, all of this is happening against the backdrop of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, which is very highly political here in the U.S., if you will, and some would argue played a role in the selection of the vice president that Kamala Harris announced today. There are some in the Republican Party suggesting that the choice not to tap Governor Josh Shapiro, who is Jewish, was an anti-Semitic one and was bowing to the pro-Hamas forces within the Democratic Party. What do you think about that idea?
I think that there's probably a little bit to it, because I think what Kamala Harris probably wants to do most of all is play it safe. I don't think it was the decisive factor, but was it one among many? Do they want to have another big fight about what the Democratic administration's policy is on Israel, and especially two-state solution and the rest? I don't think that was the number one factor, but I bet at the back of their mind they're thinking, we're trying to unite the party. We're trying to put everything back together. Let's not find an issue that splits us.
Well, it's been suggested, though, that Kamala Harris is not the same, even though in the same administration, not the same when it comes to Israel as Joe Biden. John Kirby says there's no sunlight between them. Most people in Washington don't see it that way. How about you?
Well, Kirby has to say that, of course, because she still serves in the Biden administration. But I even thought her body language when Bibi was in town last week was a little bit more perfunctory than it is around Biden. I can just sort of tell with her record and the ways that I think that she's responded to some of these issues in the past. She's more in tune, I believe, with what the progressive wing of the Democratic Party thinks about Israel. Of course, Netanyahu is unpopular almost with all Democrats and even maybe many Republicans. So if Netanyahu's not there, maybe things change a little bit, or Harris to win. But for now, I think it's a safe bet to assume that she would be a little bit harder on a Bibi Netanyahu administration than would be certainly Trump, but obviously Biden also.
Well, of course, Netanyahu's facing domestic pressures of his own, specifically pressure to get the hostages home to agree to some kind of ceasefire deal. Do you realistically think that happens while President Biden is still in office?
I'm increasingly thinking it's just not on the table. I mean, when you go and kill the head political leader for Hamas, who is an interlocutor of yours, as you try to negotiate to get a hostage deal, I feel like what the Israelis are saying is that this is not even at the very top of our priority list. What's at the top is going after Hamas, finishing up whatever we can do there. If their targets there are not anymore, I know that's something that the Israeli generals have been communicating. But I think Netanyahu's ready to move on to Hezbollah. I think in his mind that he cannot live with another genocidal terrorist organization on a second border like it occurred in the south with Gaza and Hamas. I feel like he's determined to go in. That was certainly the feeling I get the more Israelis I talk to. So I think reestablishing Israeli deterrence around the region and resetting things in the Middle East for Israel are at the top of his list, and I don't think the hostage deal is at least among the top 2 or 3 priorities he has.
All right. Well, we have to continue to watch things in the Middle East as they develop. Thank you for helping us do so. Michael Allen, managing director and partner at Beacon Strategies, and as Joe mentioned, former special assistant to the president during the Bush administration.